In this video, I would show you how to set up the assets under the 49 unique 3D bottles collections in Maya using Arnold 7's workflow. This may also apply to any other rendering workflow like Redshift, V-Ray or Cycles, as the textures are based on PBR techniques as physically based rendered assets. Okay, so firstly, I'm going to drag into Maya either the FBX or OBJ model of the bottle. So we're going to open the folder. I'll open scene. Okay, let's just open the low poly model. Show all files. Low poly FBX, right? Okay, so now we have our bottle in the scene. I'm going to assign an Arnold standard surface texture to the model. So I select everything, right click, assign what, new material. Make sure I'm on Arnold and I select what, AI standard surface, right? So I can just name this anything. Let's just call it bottle 5 what texture. Yeah, and so the next thing I'm going to do, I'll then proceed to assign texture maps to the necessary fields. So I select this, looking at my attribute editor. I'm going to connect the base color map to the base color of this shader that's here. So I'll click on this, I'll put a file here, then I'm going to search. So under the images, so you have to look for what, base color, right? So I've set this up, and for us to be able to see this in Maya, I'm going to turn on textures so you see how it looks like. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to connect the metallic map to the metalness of the shader. So metalness of the shader is under the base here, so I'm going to click here as well, go to file, click here. I'm going to select the metalness, sorry, the metallic map of the in the texture folder, right? So I'm not going to stop there. I'm now going to go under what, color balance. So under the color balance of the metalness, I'm going to check that alpha is luminance. So this box here, I'm going to check this, right, so that it renders properly in Arnold 7. So I'm also, the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to connect the roughness map to the specular roughness of the shader. So the roughness map is going to be connected to what, the specular roughness of this shader. So I'm going to select this, I'm going to go to what, file, and when I go to file, I'm going to click on this folder. I'm going to look for what, roughness, right? So I've selected the roughness, and then I'm going to make sure that what, alpha is what, is luminance. So I select this, right? So the next thing I'm going to do is still under roughness. Okay, I've already selected alpha as luminance. So the next thing I'm going to do is we are going to set up the translucency of the object. That's how opaque or how transparent our object is going to look like when we render. So first things first, we're going to link the opacity map to the weight of the transmission. So that is under transmission, the weight of this field here. Let's just set this to 1. We're going to link it to an opacity map that's in the texture folder. So I'll go to what, file, make sure what, I select what, the opacity map, right? So I've selected the opacity map. Then I'm going to what, I'm going to select what, alpha is luminance, and then I'm going to go under effects, and under the effects of the weight of transmission, I'm going to invert this. So this is how it should look like when we put the opacity in the weight field of the transmission. So the next thing is, I'm going to what, add the color, transmission color to this. So this gives this sort of glass effect where the bottle is having some kind of like tinted feel or color. So I'm going to add a file here, and then I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to look for what transmission color. So I've selected this, so you can see it has a sort of tint. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add we're going to change the depth. So the depth, depending on the thickness of the bottle, we will set the depth of the transition between 5 to 25. That's for this scenario. That's the collection of 49 unique 3D bottles. So it varies between 5 to 25. 5 is so the depth shows how the object will react to when light penetrates it. That's how much light it lets pass through it. So 5 being like it doesn't let a lot of light pass through it, then 25 should be the maximum. So for this scenario, we're going to use 10. So a value between 5 and 25. Let's use 10. So I'm going to set this to what? Under the depth field in the attribute editor, I'll set this to 10. All right. So yeah, so once you're done, you can now set up the render. So let's see how we can set up this render. Let's just add what? A sky dome light. I'm gonna just put this at 0.019, the intensity, and then I'm gonna create an area light, right? And the area light, let's just increase this in size. Let's push this out so it's facing the bottle like this. Alright, so we can also duplicate this. Let's turn this. Let's do a 3-point lighting setup. So 3-point lighting setup is a lighting setup where you have three lights basically. So you have the key light, you have the fill light, and then you have the rim light that is behind the object. So we can see how much you can see what the details we added to this. So for the key light, let's just make this 100. Let's turn this to what? 12, right? This, let's make the intensity 100, and let's turn this to what? Let's give it, so for the fill light, just something small. Maybe let's put this at let's put it at 8, right? Then the rim light, it's gonna be 100. Might just be the brightest, so we can see it come out from the outline of the background. So let me just give this 14, right? So now that we have this set up, I'm going to open what? Arnold. Now when I open Arnold, I'm going to render this. But before we do that, let's set an imager. So Arnold 7, I'm using Maya 2022. I think this feature comes with this 2022 version, but I know there are other denoisers in other setups, Maya setups, Maya packages. 2020, there should be some where you do the denoiser settings. So but in 2022, I can just easily add this denoiser optics, right? Then I'm going to now render this. So I'm going to render this now. Okay, it's a bit bright. Okay, so let's change some things. So okay, we're not using Arnold renderer here. This has to be Arnold renderer, not Maya software. And then let's stop this. Let's make this a what? Let's make this a GPU render. Let's make sure that we have 12 above 10 camera samples. what else should we set? Let's change this to 1080 HD, and I think we need to reduce the brightness too of our lights, so let's just push this to the side. Then our lights, let's make this let's try 3. This, let's try 6. This, let's try let's try 8. Right, so let's render and see how this looks like. It is a lot much better now. So this is how the bottle should look like when you render. Okay, so right now it's in a low poly form, so I can just, to make it look a lot cleaner, that is, I can just press the 3 button on Maya to preview how it will look like when it's smooth. So now this is how it should look like. Time to render. So most of all the bottles, you would practically all the bottles follow this workflow setup in Maya. So yeah, so that is that. And let's say if we wanted to look a bit much better, we could add an exposure imager. So let's turn this towards 0.5. Let's increase the exposure a bit. Let's see if we can reduce this light a bit more. Let's give it 6. Oh. Let's have more contrast. So that's it. That's how to set up your bottle assets in Maya. This could apply to like I said earlier in the video, this can apply to other render platforms and 3D softwares like Blender, Cycles, V-Ray, Octane, also Redshift. So they are PBR textures, so it's a PBR workflow. Alright, thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Alright, see ya. Bye.